Welcome everyone back to another edition of the Broker to Broker podcast. My name is Mark Summers. I'm the president of AIME. As I always say, I'm extremely excited about this one. This individual, he's got an interesting perspective on the mortgage world, but I love just his attitude about everything. So today we're going to be interviewing the production team leader at Madison Mortgage, Sean Caufield. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing great, Mark. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you being here. I mean, with this industry right now, the way it's going, I know rates are ticking up, but then they tick back down. Just for you to give up, 45 minutes, an hour of your time, I can't tell you how much I appreciate it, how much AIM appreciates, and how much our fellow members appreciate it. So thank you.
Absolutely, Mark. Anything I could do to help the broker world, the broker world has changed my life for the last 2 years. So this is the least I could do.
Perfect. Well, let's hop right into it. I always love this question. How in the heck did you get into the mortgage industry?
Okay, so I was playing. I've always been an athlete. I was playing Sunday football with with a couple of my friends that own their own mortgage branches, and it was like 2011, 2012, and we were sitting on the sidelines after the game, and one of my buddies that does mortgages, he comes up to me. He's like, Sean, you're really good with people. I think you would excel in the mortgage business. And I say, yeah, really? You think so? Like, what does that entail? I never knew, I never knew anything about a mortgage. My parents had a mortgage that I knew that they couldn't pay, right? So the house went into a short sale. So the only thing I knew of mortgages was bad, right? My grandma took out a reverse mortgage. She didn't tell anybody. And the loan officer who gave her that mortgage didn't tell her that there was a balloon payment. So she ended up losing her house. So the only thing I knew about mortgages was this field, it must be bad, right? So, but then I had my two friends telling me that it's great, you can make great money. Sean, you can make $1 million in a year with your personality, all the things that people tell you to get you in the business, right? So that's how I got in, and I ended up getting in as a telemarketer. I telemarketed for 8 months for my friend, and I did not close one deal. Didn't close one deal because nobody taught me the process. Nobody taught me what to say on the phones. They just threw a book of leads at me, old leads, and said, call. And I didn't know, anything about mortgages. So I was just talking to these people, and I'm not one to be scared on the phone or in person, but I was absolutely terrified because I didn't have any knowledge, of what to say, of what to rebuttal when, a buyer, they would ask me, how much are my closing costs? What's my rate? And I had no idea what these things even were, for 8 months. So that's how I got into it,
It's a great way to learn. I mean, it's a bad way to learn, but it's a lot of experience, right? Just
Yep.
picking up that phone.
It really taught me how to be like, how to be persistent and to not take no for an answer. Even though I didn't close a loan during those months, it really gave me a thick skin. And I feel like that I wouldn't change those 8 months for anything. Because it really taught me. Even though it didn't teach me a lot, it molded me to be a better salesperson.
Yeah. So okay, so you cold called for 8 months, and then what?
Then I actually got out of the business because I was like, nobody's teaching me. Before I did mortgages, I worked in a group home for older Down syndrome adults that, I took care of them, live with them basically like a live-in, aid. And then after I got out of the 8 months, I went to a public school in New York City as a mentor to kids that are having trouble. So I did that. I got out of the business for like a year and a half. And then my wife, Nicole, she's actually the operations manager at Madison. Um, and she's a kick-ass processor. She's amazing. And she's like, Sean, I know that you got out of the business, but I promise you, I'm working for a great loan officer now. I'm his processor. I'll train you myself to be an LOA. So I said, are you sure, Nicole? I trust you, And she's like, yes, I promise. So she brought me in. I got the job. It was me and her on his team. This guy, Jason Rappaport, who's a retail banker. He works with like NYPD, teachers, in the New York City, a lot of unions. They call it affinity lending.
Yep.
And my dad was a retired cop. So it was perfect for me because I was talking to cops and teachers and my wife taught me everything, how to calculate income, guidelines, all that stuff. And then I became a beast because nobody could stop me.
Your mindset.
And
Love it.
I stayed in LOA for, almost, 5 years, five and a half years,
Now,
you know?
are you still in LOA or?
No, no. Now I basically, I'm on my own team now. Recently I said, I'm going on my own. I love helping people, get, double their business. But, it's time for me to shine.
Good for you. So
So
when it comes down to the LOA stuff, you're pretty much an expert in that, aren't you?
1,000%. Yeah. I would go up against any LOA in the country, just everything with it when it comes from talking to the borrowers, keeping realtor relationships, you know, uh, I believe everything is the relationship. The knowledge and stuff comes secondhand. But when you can make people happy and take away their worry, nobody can stop you. They're gonna love you forever, and they're gonna send you referrals forever.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go down this LOA road if you don't mind. I mean, I know you're
Yeah.
you're out of that role, but a big buzz, even with rates kind of going up a little bit, we're still a lot of these brokers across the nation are still just pumping out so many loans, and they want to know what makes a good LOA. What's the checklist? So, in your definition here, and now once again, this is yours. What is the definition of an LOA and their responsibilities? Let's start there.
So I look at an LOA as somebody who gives the LO, takes all that little stuff off the LO's desk so that they can go and sell. Right. That's, my job as an LOA is to alleviate problems from my loan officer so they can have more time to go and sell. Right. Because that's what it comes down to is giving, if the LO has more time to sell, we can double business. If I can handle my job and take applications and keep everything organized, I can double somebody's business easily. From taking an application to, running the credit, the only things that really that an LOA shouldn't do is, give the client a rate, right? Keep that to the loan officer, and closing costs, let the LO deal with that as well. If you want to give them a roundabout of the closing costs, that's fine, but don't give a certain number. Let the LOA deal with that. But besides for that, I handled everything, as an LOA. I could take a file from start to finish with my eyes closed. And
So,
that's what I believe an LOA should do.
yeah, I mean, and now that you have your own team, that's just going to make you better. I mean, that's just going to make you 10 times better because you're going to know how to alleviate some pressure in certain areas, and other areas you're going to know how to, delegate to. So no, I mean, you set yourself up to be extremely successful.
Yep, that's exactly right, Mark. And I didn't do it. It's funny to say, but I didn't do it for me. Like, I love helping people, so I felt like the better I got at my job, the more I was helping my LO grow. And when you see somebody work so hard, all you want to do is help them. I took my LO's business on as my business. Like, this is my business. And when you have an LOA that treats your business as their own, you can't be stopped.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, in regards to an LOA, in your eyes, what makes a good LOA? What separates them? I mean, because I'm not saying anyone can do that job, because trust me, it's hard as can be, but you can train someone, but really what makes a good LOA that stands out from the crowd?
That's a great question. So, in my opinion, I think that uh, what makes a good LOA is somebody who can communicate, somebody that can give proper expectations and be confident about those expectations, and don't overpromise a million things. And you know you have to be not like peppy, but you have to be confident when you talk to the borrower, because if you don't, they feel that energy immediately. You have to be organized, because you're dealing with a million things at once. um, it's similar to like a loan processor. I would feel, it's like an LOA is like a loan processor, and an LOA all in one, an LO all in one,
Right.
so you have to be organized. You have to be able to talk to the clients, and like Todd Bitter says, pick up your damn phone. You got to pick up your phone. And I have a rule that even before Todd was saying this, I always did this, was always pick up the phone. If somebody called you, you're on the other line, let them know that you're going to call them back, because once you stop answering, your LO is going to lose that deal.
Yeah, and some people, and I kind of see both sides of it, but some people say don't always be available. But part of me goes, man, if I'm creating relationships here, I always want to be available.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like, what if you're not like on the weekends, right? Like, I just got a deal in from one of my newer realtors that I started a relationship with. And she said that she gave me the perfect borrower, 800 credit score, salary worker. And she said that the LO that she normally works with declined to speak to somebody, this borrower, on a Sunday night. And I called him right away, and I got the deal, you know?
Yep.
So it's a difference of a deal or not. Like, to me, a 5-minute phone call, and then putting the guy in Flowify, that's 5 minutes out of my day, but that meant everything to that realtor. So it just
Yeah,
depends on how your process is.
yeah, and then what referrals are you going to get after that? You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean
Yep.
you gotta strike when the iron's hot, is the way I always like to say. So I always try to answer my phone unless I'm doing a podcast. But but at the same time,
Good
no,
point.
I'm in agreement with you. I mean, there's going to be times where it's slow, and that's going to separate you. You know what I mean? There's going to be a time when it's fast right now. I mean, things are going at a rapid pace, but so that might separate you later on down the road. So I love what you say about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And realtors, a lot of people during this refi boom, a lot of people forgot about their realtor partners, let's be honest, and I never forgot about it. So, I was slipping in their DMs when everybody was doing refis,
Well, yeah, I
like,
mean,
hey, and thanks to UWM, the best partner in the world, right? We're closing loans in 15, 16 days. So, it's like, we're so lucky and blessed.
yeah, and I say that too. Like the game has been changed so much, because back when I started in like 2001 ish, I mean, it was just weird to have these AEs stop in and say, give me loans. Here's my rate sheet, talk to you later. Here's my submission checklist. And now it's like, man, who's my true partner? And AIME does have some great partners, but you always got to look and go, who's my partner? Who's going to help me grow? And, that's the big difference, I think, with brokers. And I always say, who has it better than us right now? I mean, seriously.
Yep. Yep, it's so true. And in New York, it's hard. Like, we don't have as many options as people do on the West Coast or the Midwest, right? Because New York, their regulations are very hard, like, to become a lender here. So we don't have as many options as other people do. Like, I see all these other lenders that people are using on the West Coast and in Arizona. And I'm like, wow, I wish I was able to use these lenders. Like, I see like Angel Oak and things like that for non-QM. And we don't have any of those options. So thank God we have UWM. I thank God every day for Matt Ishbia. and and also Shah Tarani, who's the president and CEO. Without their leadership, we would be nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's go back to the LOA here real quick. It's
Yeah.
easy to go tangent on this stuff because it's the business, it's what we're passionate about. But okay, so let's just say you got someone who's a we like to call it a green LOA. What advice do you give them? How do you train them? What's the best piece of advice? I mean, I know you say communication, but there's more to it than that.
Of course, yeah, absolutely. So, I would have, if you don't have obviously an LOA already, right, that can help train, right? Because what people would do is they would bring, say if I'm on a team, right, I'm the head LO, right? They would bring another LOA in and I would train that LOA, right? So if you have a setup like that where you already have a good LOA, have that LOA train that the green LOA, right? And I've trained many of people, and if you don't have that, I would tell you as an LO to really, give your time, if you have to stay late or come early, like, train that LOA to be, because everybody works different, right? We all have a different style. We all have, a lot of LOs have egos, right? And we have, we're very, a lot of LOs are, OCD to a point, like, so you have to work with your LOA. If they're green, right, you have to work with them to a point where you're teaching them how to work with you and, and for you, right? And you're teaching them the way that you see things and you do things. And nobody's perfect, but the way I learned, honestly, like I was great, but then I got even better during COVID because my LO that I was working for at the time, John Ramirez, we were using TeamViewer. You know what TeamViewer is, right, Mark?
Oh yeah.
When you can take control of the other computer. So he was looking at my applications that I was putting together, and we would go line through line, and he was making me correct it as we would go through it. So he would, and I was learning, like, even at this point, I consider myself a really great LOA, but it made me that much better because it was like paying attention. The devil's in the details, right? That's a big line that we use, and if you're feeding that information into the system and that system's feeding it to DU and LP, so if you put anything wrong there, it's your fault that you're not getting an approved eligible. So I would just say really invest time. Like if you feel like that person can be the person that that's going to be your ride or die, invest your time into that person, you know?
Yeah, especially if they're going to help your business grow. I mean, that's I always tell my guys in my office and girls that you guys are my number one investment. I mean, the people are what makes a business its value. I mean, I know a
Yeah.
lot of people agree with that. So, no, I agree with that. You got to put in the time with them. And this business is not just a training manual. It's situations, it's experience, and it's time.
Yep, it's so true. And like I said, for a long time, in this business, I didn't know what was going on, and that's a scary feeling. So when you don't train your LOA properly, you're leaving them out there. You're leaving them out there to feel that way, to feel like exposed and not, and feel like they're not like good enough. But when you teach them and train them the right way, they have that confidence that nobody can beat them. And luckily I've always had confidence even when I was bad. I had that false confidence, like, I'm gonna be the best. Whatever I have to do, I'm gonna be the best at it. And that's it. I feel like for the longest time the LOA position has been underlooked and undervalued. And I always, I was like, I'm proud to say I was an LOA for 5 years, 6 years, because I earned my stripes. I earned my stripes. Some people are like, oh, I'm an assistant. Like, never think of it like that, because without that assistant, that LO can't handle that much business. So you're so valuable. You're more valuable than you'll ever know.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah. I mean, it. People who do this by themselves absolutely amaze me. But you need a team. I mean, at the end of the day, if for the most part, you need a team, whether it's a small team or
Yeah,
big team. So, well, speaking of
it's so
teams,
true.
I heard that you're big into sports, big sports teams guy, right? So let's talk
Yeah,
about team building here, because I played sports all through high school. I even played college sports a little bit. I coach still to this day. And so I'm a big team guy. I'm all about team. And, if I know someone who is on a team or big into that team aspect, I always gravitate a little bit more towards them. So let's talk about team building here. What in your eyes makes a good production team?
So again, with the organization, I guess that's going to be something that always comes around, right? Because organization is like the key to success. If you have, it's a time saver, like, right? Like time management, organization, that all falls into like one umbrella for me. Because if you can handle, for you to handle a pipeline of so many loans, right, and to meet your goal, you have to be able to manage your time. So that's a huge thing. Organization's a huge thing. And just knowing your role and accepting your role, like if like for example, right, like Dennis Rodman would come off the bench, right, and he knew his role. He was a rebounder. He was an animal, and when he was on the court, he would put his all into it. Just know what when you're a team, everybody on the team they have their strengths and they have their weaknesses, and you have to know what your weaknesses are in order to be great, right? Because then somebody can pick up where your weakness is left off. So just knowing each other, bonding, going out. Shot takes us out. Before COVID, we would go out once a month as a team, and we would bond because it made us way stronger as a team. And it's a beautiful thing when that team connects and you all get along and you're super, cohesive. You're super cohesive, and the process becomes so smooth because of that relationship. And how athletes are, Mark. You don't stop until you get it. Like
Yep.
it's like a competition thing. Like like I in a friendly way. Like I'm gonna be the best. I'm gonna be the best, and I'm gonna work my ass off until I get to where I want to be.
Absolutely. You brought up Dennis Rodman. Just a fun little fact here. I was the Detroit Pistons ball boy for 8 years. So, and Dennis Rodman was there when I was there for a little bit.
What?
Yep.
How'd you get that job, Mark?
Yeah, that's a longer, different story, but 8 years, yeah. So
That's
pretty
that's
crazy.
amazing.
Grant Hill was there for most of my time. Grant, I'm not going to go on a sports podcast here, but
Yeah,
Grant
yeah,
Hill
yeah.
was so influential that I named my first son after Grant Hill.
Wow, I'm a big
Yeah.
Duke fan, so Grant Hill is huge for me.
All right. That's a different podcast right there. But
Yeah, yeah,
no, but I always go back to the sports thing as well. One, know your role, and everyone can't be the same person. If you are, you're not going anywhere. And the other great thing about having that team atmosphere and having that team building block is that if someone is down that day, your teammates can pick you up.
yep,
So
absolutely
I'm
right.
I'm
Like to
always
be able
big.
to shuffle,
Yeah.
like if hey, like my team member calls out sick, don't worry, I got you. Give me a list of files, I'll work on it, no problem. And then
Yeah.
you don't have to worry. There's a sign. Like sometimes I think in this business we feel guilty for being sick, and or even like taking time for ourselves, right? We feel guilty sometimes, at least I do. And when you have a teammate that can pick you up, it stops that guilt, because then they can just pick up from where you left off.
No, absolutely. No, and I love the comparison that you use for being successful with the sports teams. I mean, it's the most competitive thing out there, and if you can emulate a sports team, a good one at least. Right now, Detroit sports aren't that great, but if you can emulate a good one, I mean, you're setting yourself up for success not just now but in the future.
Yeah, yeah. Like I was on my podcast yesterday. I mentioned like the miracle hockey team of the 1980s when the USA beat Russia. The coach actually looked at videotape of each and every individual player like a year before. He knew what players he wanted, and they weren't the best players in the country, but he knew with all their different talents that they could go far. And that's how they won, because he knew that their personalities, their skill sets, everything would go along together, by doing research on them a year beforehand. And I
Yep.
found that so interesting to me, that they were able to work together, not being the best of talent, right? And they beat the best country who had won 20 years in a row prior to that. So it just shows you how much chemistry can get you.
Yeah, no, that's great. I love that. I love that. Yeah, you don't always have to have the best person. Sometimes the best person is not the best fit.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah. So
but
true.
all right. Well, let's do this here. A couple things we want to go over. Number one is one of the things that we do is, and I know you did this for us, Sean, is you put out on Facebook, basically, if anyone has any questions and whatnot. And we have one of our members, Mitch, who put a Facebook question out there. And he asked, what are you guys doing that gets a client from app to closing as efficiently and painlessly as possible?
So thanks to Shah, we have a really, really great process at Madison Mortgage. So we go from as a LO, we send it for disclosure. We have a disclosure desk, right? So the disclosure desk will board it to UWM, send the disclosures out. Once the client e-signs, then we have a submission desk, right? So the submission desk will now take it, submit the loan. Once the loan is approved, then the processing team will take it over. And the processors have a team of their own. So, Shah has put this in a system in place that is amazing. That it's just, it just goes so smoothly. And with the speed of our partner UWM, and the speed of our awesome team here, it just goes so smoothly so that we can close. And this also starts, let me mention this also starts with accountability on the LOs to make sure you put in a full file from the beginning. Because if you don't put in a full file from the beginning and your file's sloppy, then don't expect it to close, on time, and Shah holds us all accountable for that, and I would say, we're not a big group, but we all do a lot of volume here. And we have, I would say, the best process for, anywhere I've ever been by far.
No, Shaw's great. I know Shaw. Everything you're saying is pretty much his personality, and and it's
Yep.
great. Yeah, he's got a machine going over there, so that's
Yep.
awesome. Yeah, I mean, I've always been a big process guy. You got to have a process. It just can't be this file this way one day, this file this way the next day. It's got to be a process.
100% agree. 100%.
Yep, and then put in your own personality in it, and then everything's good. All right, so thanks
Yeah.
for answering that question for
Yeah.
Mitch. So to kind of finalize here, just a little bit, and we'll dive into this. Is I always like asking, all right, you've been around the block now with this. You've had different roles. We have new people coming in this industry. We have veterans that are looking to get better. What's one piece of advice that you would give to someone, whether they're veterans, up and coming mortgage brokers? What bit of advice would you give to them to make them more successful?
I would tell them to, like I said, pick up your phone. It's a really important thing, guys. Even if you're with your family, you could always pick up and be like, hey, you mind if I call you back? Set an appointment time and always keep those times. Not only that, but don't be afraid to be yourself. Right. If you go on my Facebook and you go on my Instagram, like, I'm a fun person, and sometimes I get in trouble for it, but it's okay because they know, they accept me for who I am because I love to have fun, and when people see the realness in you and they see that you're doing it for the right reasons, it all will come together. I don't do this for money. People laugh at me when I say that, but I don't do it for money. Obviously I want to make money, but when you do it for the right reasons, the money just comes, and that would be my best advice to someone, is to be who you really are. Don't fake this personality, because people will see that. People see right through all that stuff, and you're just doing yourself a disservice, by doing that. So just be real, be who you are, and be honest to the clients. Don't lie to the clients. Set expectations and set them properly. That's an underrated thing in our profession, Mark, is people don't set expectations correctly, and then they complain when the realtor and the borrowers are complaining. But it's like, if you would have set the expectation up front, they would not be complaining. you know I have very few problems with my borrowers because I tell them the whole process and they understand it, and I give them a proper expectation up front, and everybody thanks me for it. My processors that work on my files, the submission team, everybody. because then they don't have to hear, barking from the borrower,
Right.
the realtor.
Yep. So yeah, no, I'm a big one of the things that I actually have a sign in my office that says, don't under promise. I'm sorry, under promise and over deliver at all
Yes.
times. So I'll have realtors call me and say, well, how fast are you closing loans? And I know I can close them in 14, 15 days all day long. I know, right? We're around 21, 24 days. And then when you do it in 15, sorry. I mean, I'll never tell you my best numbers
Yep.
ever.
Because you're the hero, Mark, right? Once you call them with that clear to close on the 14th day, you got them for life. You know what I mean? You got them for life.
Yep.
Like, wow, this guy Mark is amazing. He closed my loan 6 days before he even said that he would,
Yep.
and now you got the realtor and the customer giving you referrals, right?
I always love doing that too because it puts a little pressure on the realtors because I'm like, hey, we can close early. My borrower wants to close. Now they're jumping through hoops. So I love doing that. That's always fun to
Yeah,
me. So
yeah. I always tell them, so when with the listing agent, right? Because what I do something as well, which is good for LOs to do, is I call the listing agent on every deal and introduce myself, and I call them before they call me when my buyer makes an offer. And I feel like that's super important for your buyers to win, especially in this market. And they all ask me, how fast can you close? How fast can you close? And I do the same thing as you, right? And I actually call them when we get the clear to close, and they're, usually they're like, no way. They're like, no way, you're not clear to close already. And I'm like, yeah, we are. And uh, and you end up getting a new referral partner, honestly, Mark.
yeah. Whenever I get like realtors or whatever, listing, selling agent, buying agent, however you want to, put a terminology, and I get the title company, I always do an introductory in there and talk about basically how we're all in this together. You know what I mean? And the more we can work together, which goes back to your team, which now means I'm going to change some of the verbiage that I've been using with our conversation right here. But it's I'm going to start using that more team aspect of it and how we're all in this together. And at the end of the day, to go back what you said, what you talked about with the question of the week, which is be real with your people. And I always say, put the borrower first. If you can always put the client and or borrower, consumer, whatever you want to say first, and put their best interest in mind first at all times, everything else falls into place 99%
Yep.
of the time.
So true, Mark. Yep. I
Yeah.
agree 100%.
All right. So any final words you got?
No, man, I just appreciate you having me on. And, I'm happy that, even though I'm not an LOA anymore, I'm just happy that, it's getting I guess, the light it deserves, treat your LOAs good, guys, make sure they're well paid, and make sure, you trust them, and if they warrant your trust, if they're working overtime for you, and they're not, and they're doing everything they possibly can, just make sure you treat them right, because they don't have to do those extra things for you, but they do it because they love you as a person, and they want you to succeed, and just take care of them, because I know from being on the opposite side, when you do those extra things for your LOA, it can only be positive, the outcome. So I
Absolutely.
appreciate you having me on, Mark. And, I'm so happy, and thankful that AIME exists, and that you take your time out and, help people realize that brokers are better, because we are definitely better.
I'm telling you, I'm wearing the brokers are better shirt right now. My kids ask me
Me
about it. And
too. I
I'm
got
honest with, look at you. Look at you. I love it. I love it. And I tell them, no, this is how I truly feel. I'm not just wearing this for a tagline or to do whatever, gain more business. I truly believe this. And that's the beautiful thing about it, is that when we can truly believe in something, it's easy to talk about. And that's why
I
you're
agree.
here.
Yep. Both of us, the passion just comes right through. I could tell, Mark. I can't wait to meet you. I could just tell you're a sports fan by the passion that you have.
Big sports fan. So hopefully you come out to Fuse, our national event, at the end of September. Yeah, and I hope everyone comes out. And that's a little plug for that. I didn't even plan on that, but Fuse is coming up, and it's going to be right around the corner. I'm really, really excited about it. So Sean, thanks for being here with us today. So, and thanks for sharing your insights with us. So appreciate it. I can't tell how appreciative I am. So, brokers, if you want to get caught up on all of our past podcast episodes, please head over to aimgroup.com/ broker to broker. You can also listen to all of the Broker to Broker podcast episodes on iTunes, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Do me a favor, please get on there, subscribe to it, listen to them. Please rate our podcast and please leave a review. It helps us get better. It also helps the podcast get the word out there that brokers are better. So once again, Sean, thanks for being with us today. Keep crushing it, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Thank you, brother.